Okay, there we go. Haha. Just waiting for this thing to start. This is the first time I've started with this, so yeah, you're gonna see a boomer moment. is There is a delay. Boomer. All right, what's up, everybody? Once you catch up with this, we are going to be reviewing and discussing Tiamat's Wrath, The Expanse, Book 8. And you know what? It says Chapter 4, but I'm willing to go up to Chapter 5. I don't know if any of you have gone past that. Now, to catch absolutely everything, I have to read these books twice. So I'm going to kind of save the rest for the plane ride and probably do my next review here from Italy, which will be fun. But so far, I got to say overall, I like it. There's some frustrating bits, but it's too early to be frustrated. And I know I spoke of my frustrations last live stream, but once I think about it, I got to let things play out. I wasn't the biggest fan of the last book. All right. So we are in, I don't have my spoiler paddle. We are in hardcore spoiler territory here, especially for the show and for the first 5 chapters of the book. I'll try not to go into too many details, but we could talk about the characters that they've decided to bring in for this book. I am mostly very happy with who they brought in. It's very noticeably female heavy, and with the current times, it's not a surprise. I fully expected this, but it seems like so far, I mean, again, I'm only 5.5 chapters in. It seems like they're benching Holden again. So one of the things I didn't like, I'm actually one of the people who likes Holden. Okay, I like Holden as a character. I like how he's kind of a slacker, who's been thrown into the kind of guy who is just really happy being a manager at Warehouse Records, and was thrown into this adventure. And with the beginning of the Expanse book series, it hit the ground running. And the one thing I loved about the first 5 books was it just didn't stop. Once shit went sideways, it just kept going and going and going and going and going and going and going. And it seems like, especially with the last book, they kind of took a breath, which maybe they needed, but I don't know, it was too long of a breath to me. So I don't know how y'all felt about the last book, but so far, it feels like they found that pacing again, that pacing that I like so much. So I am hooked. I am absolutely hooked. Now, I said in my last live stream, and I mean it, but it could change. All right. Because they brought back characters before and written them differently. Now, and before I get into this book, I'll tell you the one character I cannot stand is Michio Pa. And I'm glad she's not around anymore. I just. So, yeah, the thing I like the least about the Expanse book series is Michio Pa, and just how she was treated like kind of a Mary Sue, who was semi-responsible for the death of billions and didn't feel bad about it, and then given a leadership position. I was like, what? And everybody's just praising her at the end of the book. Even Holden is like, oh, we should have, the butcher. I mean, like the butcher of Anderson Station would have to kill for like 30 generations, 30 centuries to kill as many people as Michio Pa was responsible for killing. She was part of the group, so, she's an accomplice for killing billions of people on Earth. And I had to read the book twice. I'm like, maybe I'm just reading this wrong. And I know the writers and most people, and myself included, have a great sympathy for the Belters. But I mean, the Belters were, split at that point. With that, the Belters in that was Marcos and the hardcore faction killing billions of people. Now, it's really interesting how they killed those people, and they used, and how they decimated Earth. And what has happened since is interesting, but it seems like once we found out who the killers of the engineers of the proto-molecule were, or well, we don't know if it was them or if that, whatever this black pupil thing that disappears people and ships through the ring. And we don't know if it's a tool itself or if it's a being, or like they say in this book, we don't know if it's just a force of nature, which I think is interesting. I think it's interesting, but we're finally dealing with it, which I was like, thank God, because I was expecting that the last book, and I'm sure they were subverting my expectations, and they did. But I've been very happy with this book so far. So Elvie is back, and Elvie was an okay character. She didn't annoy me. I thought actually the first part of Cibola Byrne, she was, the way she was all sex starved for Holden and everything. That was pretty funny, to be honest with you. And I like Faiz a lot. So, but they have her on an interesting mission. So I have to admit, when I first heard her chapter, I'm like, God, no. And then what I found out she was doing, and by the end of her chapter, I'm like, oh shit. So the prologue starts out with our boy Holden, who is still a prisoner of the evil, but yet really charming and likable Admiral Duarte. Admiral Duarte, who used the faction of the Belters and Marcos and a portion of the Mars Navy to practically destroy Earth. We also find out, and this is this is going to be spoilers, so plug your ears. I'm going to count down to it. But they start the book out, and it's pretty obvious. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Avasarala has passed of old age, and she's really freaking old, because that's the other thing I have yet to talk about, and I've insinuated this on my live streams, and I'm glad I can discuss it now, and I'm going to get to the chat in a second. Everybody's 5 decades older since Cibola Byrne. It's been 5 decades, 50 years. They took a 30-year, 40-year time jump. They've been very, maybe I missed it in the book, but they haven't really discussed anybody's age. And I just assumed that Holden was, maybe late 20s, early 30s. So he's pushing 80 now, at the very least 70, but they have pills. They have life-extending pills and treatments. So people live longer now. So they kind of explain that. But even those have their limits. But I think the reason I've given this a lot of thought, and the reason they had to do the time jump was to jump in technology, give Admiral Duarte time to build his Laconian empire, and really, try to fast forward through the Expanse, because it probably wouldn't make, now that we've opened the ring gates, it's still going to take, because they have grounded the series in science, it wouldn't make sense to, in 10 years, an empire's built up and everything's changed. So it turns out the Laconian Empire is pretty much taken over everything. There is a resistance of an underground, and it looks like the Belters are back to doing their Belter thing, and it's done through the transportation union. So the Teamsters are back at it. Admiral Duarte has taken advantage of Avasarala's funeral and decided to take her body from Earth, where they were originally going to have the funeral, and do it on the Laconian homeworld. And he built her a giant mausoleum and co-opted her and used her for the state, which is something they would kind of do. So that was pretty clever, actually. And we start out the book right after her funeral. And the poetry they used on the building, by the way, that they couldn't, the granddaughter couldn't identify, of course, was what her husband had said to her one of the last times they had, I think they met before, one of the last times they had talked, because he died, of course, when Earth was pounded with giant tungsten. Oh, crap. Mrs. Nerdrotic's going to be home, so you're going to hear the Nerdrotic dogs. So the first chapter, we get a lot of information with Holden, and we find out that, you know, he's an honored prisoner. So it seems like they're treating him okay, but they're probably not. He's probably holding a lot in. He goes to some party. We get to see Drummer. Drummer has fallen in line with the Lakodian Empire just to, you know, make sure she maintains her position, but she's probably helping lead the underground in some way. And Drummer and Holden have a conversation. He talks about it jokingly, because he knows people are listening to him all the time, that, you know, I'm just waiting to make my move. Holden also earlier has a conversation with Avasarala's granddaughter, who's grown up, Kiki. And she reminds him a lot of her. And so she's there for the whole state thing, and it's all pomp and circumstance, and all the celebrities are there. And of course, Admiral Duarte is parading Holden around as, you know, it looks good for him. He took probably the symbol of the underground, and he's walking him around on a leash. And yeah, it's pretty terrible, but so far Holden's okay. And the crew of the Roci is split up again. The Roci was last seen on the planet, the Freehold colony or whatever. And then that's it. And Holden is still there helping Duarte, you know, try to figure out what killed the proto-molecule engineers. I was concerned after reading this chapter, like that was all the, you know, information we were going to get, but that it looks like they're really focusing on this on the book. So like, good on them. Now I am excited. Then we had the Elvi chapter. So Elvi chapter is she's with Faiz, and they are on, I think, a ship called the Falcon. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to remember everything. Okay. And they are going through the rings with the dead systems. Although Elvi doesn't like them calling it the dead systems, there's just no life. But it's where you know what I imagined in my head when they described the black eye pupil thing that Miller saw and Elvi saw. I just think of the Eye of Sauron. You know, just a black eye of Sauron. So they come up on a planet that is the size of Jupiter. That is a diamond. It's a green glowing diamond, glowing green from the radiation. And it turns out that it is a proto-molecule engineer structure, possibly. And what they're doing is they're going through the dead systems, and they take a proto-molecule catalyst to see if they can fire up the proto-molecule. They have found a way to get the proto-molecule not to communicate with itself. So they take this catalyst, and they keep talking about the catalyst, and you kind of know what the catalyst is right away, and I'll get to it. But they found a way to cut off the proto-molecule from communicating with itself, and it turns out it's not, the space has nothing to do with it. It can communicate with itself instantaneously. They're not sure how, but through various, they use a structure to cut off the communication so it won't, fire up. And it turns out they've done some more, Duarte, I'm forgetting the guy's name. Duarte's got a guy studying the proto-molecule, and he's figured out that some people are actually carriers. So they don't get to the point, they get infected by the proto-molecule. It eats away their brain and everything, but it doesn't get them to the point of turning into a vomit zombie where they're passing it on. All right. So they're just almost to that point. And it turns out the catalyst is a person. And what Duarte has been doing is taking prisoners and testing proto-molecules, testing the proto-molecule on these people. So he's got basically a proto-molecule farm. Sick. See, I was like, Duarte's not, he killed 1 billion people, but he seems like an okay emperor, except for, being basically a Nazi. So he's not okay at all. He's kind of an asshole. It makes you think back to that scene in Nemesis games when Alex had a conversation with the guy. He's like, that was a great chapter, by the way. So Admiral Duarte is testing on prisoners with the proto-molecule. He's using the catalyst. Elvi knows this, and she's continuing with the project. She is using the excuse that he is a tyrant. We would have no choice. And at least we get to do the science. And she tried to sort of rationalize it in her head like it's totally okay to do to a chimp, but it's not okay to do a person. But of course she feels bad. And before they send out the catalyst, she goes and apologizes to it, even though it can't understand her at all or anything. So they send the catalyst out and they shoot it out into the big diamond thing, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if it activates. She is in the military now. She's a major, but she's also the scientist, and she works under another commander there on the ship who's kind of a hard ass. Then we have Naomi. Naomi's in chapter 2, and she is, they are talking about a shell game, and what they are doing is trying to get her. She is a high-ranking member of the underground or in the underground, and she's on some kind of op, and what they're doing is they have her in like cargo containers, and she's living in this cargo container, and as ships are coming and going, she gets shifted out, and she's on her way somewhere. And we're really not sure until she meets up with Alex. So she meets up with Alex and Bobby at some point while they're on their way to an op, and they have a rendezvous and they meet and talk, maybe for the last time. We're not sure. We don't know what the mission is. We just know that Holden is prisoner, and you notice I haven't mentioned Amos yet. Well, Amos, after Peaches, Clarissa, had passed away, I guess Amos took it kind of hard. So the first op he got for the underground that was a high risk, low reward, he took it. And they haven't heard from him since. It's been a couple of years, I think. It's been a couple of years. So no Amos. We don't, they hope he's not dead, but they're kind of assuming he's not dead. So yeah, no Amos, no Holden. Alex and Bobby are together, and I don't know if they're together. I think they're just buds. I don't know if they're going at it at this point or not. Alex has lost weight, but Alex has always been older than everybody else anyway, and Bobby's still big and Bobby, and she's got and she's got control of the Gathering Storm, which is of course that Martian ship that the Martian or the Laconian ships that run kind of on protomolecule a little bit of the tech. They can heal themselves and stuff. So they're going on some sort of mission. And I'll skip up to chapter 4 where we meet Teresa. Teresa is Admiral Duarte's daughter. And we just get a scene where she's doing some tutoring with somebody who's, basically, well, not tutoring. It's one of the government officials that spends a lot of time with her and is the one person who's not afraid of her. And he's tutoring her up and teaching her about negotiation, and they were actually talking about the protomolecule and what killed the protomolecule and what the mission is, and the mission that Elvie's on, which is trying to figure out if it's an enemy or if it's a force of nature. Then there's a quick scene where Admiral Duarte talks to her about succession. So he wants to he's an emperor, he's an emperor in all but name, and he wants to make her his successor. And that's where we'll stop. I will get to the chat. It is pretty damn good so far. Now I've skipped ahead a little bit before that, but I don't know how many of y'all have read the book, have run out and got the book. I couldn't wait to get this book. I could not wait. I was counting the days. So even if I'm like kind of bummed out at one of the books, the entirety of the book series is great. It's certainly better than most things I've read. I've got to say I'm a huge fan of Song of Ice and Fire, but the later books are a little more satisfying than the later books of A Song of Ice and Fire. And well, these guys come out with a book almost once a year. That's impressive. That's really impressive. So I don't know if they're going to take a little extra time with book 9. This one was a little over a year, but not bad. I mean, it was a year and 4 months. I mean, no big deal. That is great. So, and it's 2 writers. It's Ty Frank and Dan Abrams, who both work on the show as well. Streamlabs is up. Streamlabs is up. Oh yeah, I've got my little thing there. So hopefully it works. Thanks, Odin, from Odin's Movie Blog. So I've got it. I mean, like bare bones working, my man. Bare bones, but it's there. It's there. And let's get rid of the windows we don't need, because my computer can. Oh crap! I forgot to share this on Facebook. Oh well. I'll share it on Facebook when it's done. We will share it on Facebook when it's done. Okay. Let's get to the chat. Okay, and I'm going to pop out this chat here so I can look at it. Any news about those poor Mormons? Wonder Girl 60, I'm assuming most of them died on Earth during the barrage, the Marcos barrage. Streamlabs uses PayPal too. Yeah, it does. I think there's a credit card option, but are there racists in the future? Uncle Remus? Yeah. I mean, what there is it's more like an economic racism. People are pretty down on the Belters, and the Belters are a lot of Belters don't like the inners. They call Martians and Earthers inners, but a lot of that is over now because what happened was some of the Belters got exploited again. They laid waste to the earth just to help somebody create an empire and be a diversion, so somebody could steal a bunch of Navy ships, go through the ring. Where they found a very like the most habitable planet, and start a super society of it's not like Nazis. I mean they are as long as you are cool with it's a very progressive totalitarian regime. Yeah. So Admiral Duarte doesn't suppress education. He doesn't suppress art or anything. You just have to do exactly what he says or he will kill you. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thanks, Wasted Mind. It was only delayed due to printer issues. They had it ready for December release. The printer screwed up, which is why wow. Ah, what a bummer. Well, that's okay. Hey, even if they were 4 months late, it's okay, guys. A year and 4 months is a perfectly reasonable. Actually, if they took 2 or 3 years, that's perfectly reasonable. Listen, I'm not super harsh on George. You know, I think 5 to 6 years, maybe 7 is reasonable for a Song of Ice and Fire. I do, but we are getting close to 9 years. So, yeah, you know, it's tough writing. You can't just crap that stuff out. Okay. If it was easy, everybody could do it. And they thank George in this one. And you know, hey, I still love George. That's interesting that's a bummer. A printer can cause a 4-month delay. Sons of bitches. Just started Expanse, halfway through season 1, digging it so far and hope it gets better. Might stop and read the books first now. Mismatch sock. I think you're okay watching. I mean, I watched season 1 first and then I read the book and I enjoyed them just as much. There's differences. They certainly add stuff to the show that they don't have in the book. The book is different. What I really liked, and I hope they go back to, is they would end a season, like season 1 doesn't even make it through the first book. And I thought that was a really interesting way to pace the show. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, you're right, Thomas Preston. Admiral Duarte is supposed to live forever, but it sounds like he's having second thoughts. Certainly, I mean, I think he can live forever. It's kind of like an elf in Lord of the Rings. They can live forever unless somebody kills them. I mean, they're not immortal from, getting murdered. So I think he's got that in mind. I think he's also got a healthy fear of what killed the proto. The more he learns about what killed the proto-molecule, the scarier it gets. I mean, they have this human expansion going on, and the ships are still getting plucked away. And when they fired up that one weapon, it brought the damn thing in there, and it knocked everybody out for a minute, and yeah, it was crazy. And I don't know if we don't know exactly what it is. Oh, it definitely needs some tweaks. Like I said, I put up the bare bones, but Odin was very helpful. Those poor Mormons, I know. Well, their station is Medina Station, which is outside the ring gates in the solar system. So it went to good use. Fred Johnson is gone. Fred Johnson is dead. Honestly, I can't remember what happened to Anderson Dawes. Does anybody remember what happened to Anderson Dawes? He might still be out there somewhere. He was a good character, and they just kind of forgot about him. Kiki is Avasarala's least favorite grandchild because she reminds her of herself so much. That's right, Matthew Matson. Which makes her her favorite. That's kind of the bummer about the time jump is we had to get rid of Avasarala, which is too bad because seriously one of the best characters I've ever read. Here, let me try. Is the video laggy? Here, I can try to fix that. Yeah, it certainly says it is laggy. Well, I'm going to boom, 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 boom. We don't need this up. We don't need this up. All right, hopefully that's better. Hopefully that's better. Yeah, they never said what happened to him. Maybe he's still out there. Maybe Anderson Dawes is still out there. They had referenced him 2 books ago, and maybe they referenced him last book, but I don't remember. I can certainly look that up. Now I'm curious. Anderson Dawes. Here, as that pops up, we'll get to more chat. Is it laggy? Yeah. See, you know what? OBS isn't running great on my Mac, but I'm going to run it on my PC. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it now. I'm getting a lot of freeze frames. That sucks. Nerdrotics mic needs a Stargate. It better be on my, yeah, it should be nice and loud. It should be nice and loud, and it's coming through my Rode Podcaster. So maybe it's just, yeah, maybe this sucks. So next time I will do it through, I'll just do it through until I get this fixed up. I'm going to probably just go through Hangouts next time. I'm going to be back on in a little bit to do Happy. I'm going to watch Happy, and then we'll be back up here. 2 books ago is what I remember. Maybe he just died in the Empire's takeover. Probably. It'll probably get mentioned eventually. I mean, they've got 1 book to go. I hope Jared Harris sticks around too, but I don't think he's going to be in next season. I don't think so. I think he's in another... Well, the Thundercats, the lag has got nothing. It's got everything to do with this Mac has been lagging anyway, which sucks because I got gigabit internet and it shouldn't be doing that at all. But it's probably dealing with the OBS. So if it's laggy, oh, hey, yeah. That's how I felt about Gendry on Game of Thrones. Yep. Well, you know, he's in the book a lot more. But, you know, he was rowing for a couple of seasons. It's going Jay Giles band on me. Okay. All right, I'm going to cut this one off. If the stream sucks, I'm sorry about that. But I'll be back for Happy, and we could definitely talk more about the Expanse on my next live stream, which will be tomorrow. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, it's working out a lot of bugs thanks to all the crap going on in the other channel. And yeah, so I will be back for Happy, and then after I talk about Happy, we can talk about whatever we want after that. Dawes is still rowing. Okay, everybody, sorry it was a crappy stream. I apologize for that. So I will end it. I'll be back in about an hour and a half. We can talk about Happy and whatever. All right. Thank you so much for joining, Expanse fans. I'm very happy the book is back. I can't wait to read more, and I can't wait to come back to you and we could cover like the next 5 chapters or 6 chapters. All right, everybody, have a great day. Live long and prosper. We do not